2347, November 9th, 2084, GMT-5. New Orlando. The skiff passed over a black sheet of water. The moon was down. Stars appeared as tiny pinpricks overhead. Julia Hunt listened for the shore. A stray voice, animal sounds, a car's engine. Nothing yet. She sat in the bow, a cracked chem stick casting a pale glow on the paper map spread across her lap, one of a handful of old documents she'd requested from her office at UN headquarters. She compared it with the up-to-date hologram produced by the implanted VisiChip in her left wrist. They didn't match at all. Old Florida appeared on the paper map like a welcoming arm reaching out into the Gulf. A terrible season of storms 2 decades ago had eradicated the coast, turning that arm into a stump after years of rising sea levels. Julia had marked the line of amputation with red pencil. The new coast extended in a diagonal from Daytona Beach in the east, bisecting Old Orlando, and then on to St. Petersburg in the west. She had spent little time in Florida, but she understood the anger and heartbreak of native Floridians as so much of their beloved peninsula vanished beneath the waves. Julia had set out from Greenland less than 24 hours earlier. She'd left her office in a rush, with hardly time to pack a bag. An unmarked Brazilian transport had picked her up at an FBO outside of Nuuk, flown her south across Greenland's coast, and delivered her onto the carrier deck of a multinational flotilla gathered just outside the Gulf of Mexico. The flotilla's commodore, an Indonesian captain named Joko, had gone over the message Julia was tasked to deliver as envoy. Not long after dark, she had departed his flagship on the skiff with a pilot and 4-man security detail of Indonesian Marines. Now, many hours later, she wondered if they'd ever find the coast and their rendezvous. Without warning, the pilot threw the rudder violently starboard. Julia toppled to the deck. The twin outboard motors reversed, churning up the water. Julia caught a heavy whiff of diesel as she stood. As a citizen of a consortium member nation, she hadn't smelled those fumes in years. The pilot pointed overhead, gesturing for her to duck. The skiff passed slowly beneath a steel scaffold arching out of the water. The pilot issued another sharp order. A Marine scuttled up to the bow, nudging Julia to the side. He held a high-powered flashlight. Its beam washed over a tangle of these scaffolds. It was an old roller coaster. Julia glanced once more at her map. She now realized exactly where they were. She placed a red X on what had once been Disney World. She recalled a childhood trip with her adoptive mother after the war, as their skiff made wakeless progress through the wreckage. The Marine shut off his light and climbed back to the stern as the amusement park passed behind them. The pilot throttled the engines and they hurried toward the coast, a darker band of darkness growing on the horizon. The pilot idled their engine at 100 meters out. The current drew them silently onto the beach. Julia could hear the waves lap against the sand as their flat-bottomed hull scraped onto the shore. She leaped over the gunwale, landing thigh-deep in the water. The 4 Marines followed, their rifles tilted at the ready. The rendezvous was less than a mile away, at an abandoned airstrip. Standing in the Indonesian Commodore's stateroom earlier that evening, Julia had asked for more details on the rendezvous, the name of who she'd meet, their description, anything really. But the Commodore only repeated the little he knew. Ever since independence, the Floridians had proven notoriously difficult to work with, uncooperative at best and hostile at worst. Her instructions were to head to a nearby airstrip and wait. An envoy would arrive sometime before first light. Sand coated Julia's boots as she crossed the beach. Her saltwater wet trousers clung to her legs as she hurried onto the dirt track that led to the airstrip. The summer before, she'd turned 60 and had already served 3 years at the UN as the special representative for the future of the planet. She thought of herself as an environmental scientist first and a diplomat second.